Hello and welcome to Threat Hunting. We're going to take a look at something that's been eating up a little bit of my time at work lately, and that is the Citrix ADC remote execution vulnerability, that is being followed as CVE 219.197.81. All right, so let's just start with the facts. What do we know? Okay, so we know it affects the Citrix application delivery controller and gateway. We know that it's a remote code execution vulnerability that uses a directory traversal. All right, let's think about impact. Okay, first one is that you've got an appliance in your network that's compromised. So whatever you can do, either jumping from there or to that appliance, is going to be impacted. Now, these application delivery controllers help send applications throughout your enterprise, help do load balancing. So those could be mission critical things relying on this device. Kind of interesting. How's it happen? A single post request, okay? And that single post request is going to append code to an XML file, okay? And it's taken advantage of Perl, I do believe. And then that XML file is run, and then the code runs as well. So kind of have our chain of events. Now you might ask, so how do you know these things, Molly? I would like to say I'm just, naturally awesome. But no, I did a bunch of reading, and there's some great information out there. Let me point some of it out. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. FireEye did some great reports. Nice and detailed, right? Not only concerning the first one, but also some malware that was observed using this exploit on a wide scale. You can also always just find the exploit as well. And that can be really useful because it will help you understand what's happening and you can make alerting on it. All right, so let's dig into the logs. And as I move over there, I want to thank It's Really Nick GitHub page for putting up these PCAPs. These are great. Thank you. We're going to learn a lot from them and hopefully help some folks out too. All right, we're going to start on this one. So looking up here right away, we're going to see two GET requests, and we're going to notice the request URI. Those double dots in it, that's your directory traversal. And it is trying to get an SMB configuration file. And if it worked, then we'll have some idea of what we're dealing with. So here's our GET. Let's go into our next packet. And we're going to see we actually have some text here. So this is the SMB configuration file. Okay. It looks like this particular Citrix application is vulnerable. We're also going to notice that this particular person, super smart, wanted to see if the URL was case sensitive. So they did it again, but they changed the capitalization. And we're also going to see that this time it didn't work. Okay, so when you make your rules or you're learning on this, if you want to use this URI as the key, capitalization matters. Now let's take a look at the exploit. Here we go. Now we notice right away that we are dealing with post request. Again, in our URI, we're seeing similarities. We're seeing the directory traversal. We're seeing VPNs. This time it looks like it's pointing to a Perl script instead of an SMB configuration file. And we might want to dig in and see exactly what was posted. This is if we right click and follow HTTP conversation, this is what we'll get. So here's our headers. We can see we've got a post. We can see that we've got some kind of interesting headers that we don't often see. We'll notice we've got this strange file name as well. Leaving out the obvious, we see all of this encoded traffic. If we're looking for anomalies, this is really, really You want to key in on this, right? But remember, encodings can change all of the time. The person who wrote this could have done this probably a great number of different ways, but it is very suspicious. We can know the server responded with a 200, which means, okay, no worries, it worked. We can also see the second GET request for the XML, which coincides with what we understand about it. Notice that XML name is the same name that was in that header value. Okay, so just for fun, kind of wanted to see what all of that meant. So went over to CyberChef, super fun. And spent a little bit of time on the recipe. And what we came out was something that looked plausible. And we can see it's a Python script. We can see it is using sockets. So we know we've got network communication. We know it looks like we're involving port 5000. Looks like we've got some file names and a subprocess call to shell. Okay, so I'm going to guess that we're creating a listener, perhaps a connect back to, so that when someone connects to it, they have a shell prompt on this box. Okay, so that's kind of fun to look at. All right, now back to the main point. If we want to make an anomaly, hunt, or hypothesis, let's think about what we saw. It's kind of a basic frame. When blank, this is observed along with blank, it could be possible exploitation. So take a second, kind of think, rewind the video if you want, take a look at it. What kind of out of the ordinary things could we look for to maybe find this? Okay, so we could look for directory traversal. That's a common thing that is used. We could look for the strange headers, the NSC user and NSC nonce. That's pretty unique. Those are anomalies generally in traffic. And then the last part gets a little more specific, but we want to know if it was successful. So we want to look for a 200 or a 304. Okay, so there's our anomaly. We're looking for weird posts. Maybe you put in here those encoded commands, right? Super interesting to look for. Might give you a lot more than just this exploit, but it might give you other exploits too. And that's kind of the power of anomalies when you do those hunts. Okay, now let's take a look at our tactics, techniques, and procedures. All right, now this is going to be, the exploit is a tool that can be used. Okay, so the exploit itself could be a procedure or a tactic. So for instance, FireEye found Not Robin, which is a malware, is what they call it, it's a malware that was using this. And so its initial access was this exploit, and that was also the exploitation. The persistence was a cron job, and the command and control that they observed, or at least they think they observed, was a UDP listener on a very specific port. Let's bring that up real quick. Their great work on what they found. Super smart people. There it was. Okay, so they found the routine when they reverse engineered the Not Robin was listening on that port. They say they didn't see any connections, but it is suspicious, right? Okay, so going back to our slide, those are all TTPs for Not Robin. So if we put that together, we'll go back one second. So if we see those things, Citrix exploits for initial access and exploitation, if we see a cron job and we see a listener on a box for that UDP port, that's a pretty good profile for Not Robin, and pretty good you can find stuff. And if you read the report, they'll have more endpoint data as well. So kind of good stuff there. Okay, our last one, an IOC hunt. Now, we can think about this in two ways. We can either think of an IOC of malware that is abusing this exploit, or you could think about the IOC as the exploit itself. Now, in this particular case, I kind of went into not Robin, just because there's a pretty good domain name in there that is very indicative. Right? In this case, it was vilarunners.cat. So if you see that coming out of a Citrix box, then you know that your appliance was compromised by not Robin. So that's an IOC. It's a domain, right? Yeah. So I want to thank you for kind of chiming in here and watching us kind of go through some hunts for the big Citrix ADC exploit that came out. If you're new to watching this channel, check out there's a course of about 11 videos on introduction to threat hunting. A lot of this with some more explanations on the types and some more examples of good stuff. So thank you so much. Take care.